Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and oh my goodness, do we have a great show for you today. I mean, it is absolutely outstanding. Let me just say this about this show. I'm getting something here that's saying, oh, we're having an error. Some of you cannot see us on YouTube. You know what? It's okay. We'll get that fixed. But you know what? Folks, listen, we got a great show for you today. And here's the deal on why we have such a great show for you today. Because we live in a world that is highly volatile. It's unconventional. It's very concerning for a number of you. It's difficult. Things are tough. And we live in a world where people are barely surviving, I feel, oftentimes. We're spending more of our time, in fact, just surviving it. And we need a way to not just survive another day. We need to stop running with the rats in a race that's endless. And we need to thrive in today's world. The beautiful thing when I say that is this. You don't need any special tools outside of what you have inside yourself that you can awaken who you are to thrive. And the tools that you do have, you probably don't know that you actually have them at your disposal, is the truth. So I have brought in, I'm going to call him friend, Rand Selig, with his book, Thriving, How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. It is 14 chapters of tools that you have that you may not even know that you have available to you. Now, we're going to talk to him just a second. So before we get to him, let's do what we do every week, right? We are 4-part people. We're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And the fact of the matter is we got to be working on ourselves every single day because we don't stay static, because if we're not growing, we are dying. Okay. So I have you evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 every week about where you're at in these 4 areas. So physically, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, 10 being, man, it can't get any better, 5 being average. How would you say you're doing when it comes to getting enough exercise, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, eating right? On that scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you're at? Now, listen, before you jot down that number and you think, oh, I'm depressed. I can't. No, listen, that number isn't about where you're at permanently. It's about where you're at right now and what you can do to start doing something different to make a change. That number is your starting point to go, man, I can change from here. So if you're a 2, man, how can you get to a 2.5? What can you do today to change that just a little bit to get you to that 2.5? All right. If you're 7, oh, good for you. Challenge to get to that 7.25 because you're already up there, right? It gets a little tougher, right? Okay, so that's your first number. So the second number is the mental intellectual number, right? Here's the problem that some of us have. We think that somehow we can just sit and absorb information and somehow we'll just grow intellectually. We can't be couch potatoes and grow. We have to be an active participant in our intellectual growth. How are you growing in wisdom and knowledge and understanding? How are you growing in knowing how to improve what you do and improve you, improve your relationships? How are you growing in that area? What are you doing? You know what a great way to do that is? Read a book. This one's good, right? But it takes those things, right, to help you grow intellectually. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing growing yourself intellectually every day? All right, that's your second number. Third number is the emotional number. A lot has been written about emotions, right? Dr. Daniel Goleman has written tons on emotional quotients and emotional intelligence, right? I'm going to make it real simple. How well are you able to control your emotions under stress and pressure? Like when you're hangry? And how well are you able to tap into and truly understand the emotions of another person? On a scale of 1 to 10, putting those together, how well would you say you're doing? right? By the way, that second piece, right? Sometimes we call it empathy, but can I tell you what a big part of empathy is? Actively listening. I mean, really listening to a person, like not getting ready for what you're going to say next, but really listening, not just hearing them, listening. And then the fourth area is the spiritual area. And I know a lot of us struggle with this area because we don't know what to say about it. So, it's kind of hard. But let me just put it this way. If you remove the physical, mental, and emotional, what do you have left? Well, it's the spiritual. And the fact of the matter is, every single day of your life, you live by faith. And that's a spiritual thing. You went and you drank a cup of coffee. It wasn't poisonous. Spiritual faith. You pushed the button on your car or turned the key and believed the car was going to start. Faith. The crosswalk on the sign that said walk, you believe the car's not going to hit you. Faith. Right? You made plans for the future, believing they're going to happen. Have they happened yet? No, but you have faith they will. And then what brings you back from chaos in your circumstances to a place of peace or centeredness? Is that God? Is it nature? Or is it meditation? Is it something different? And then is it working for you? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're doing in your spiritual area? Those 4 areas are like the air in the tires of your car, right? If one tire is too low, what happens? The car veers. It's really hard to steer, and it's a struggle, right? And then what happens if all 4 tires are too low? Well, you know what? Over the course of time, you're going to ruin the car. So what we want to do is we want to bring up air in the tires to the right height. And speaking of someone who does that so well, his name is Rand Selig, and he's an accomplished entrepreneur. He's a coach, conservationist, a board member. He shares his extensive expertise in this book, Thriving. He has managed hundreds of complex projects in his career and has run his own financial services firm for over 35 years. He's lived and worked in places in all over Europe, Asia, Mexico, Caribbean. And he's having a high set point for happiness and being relentlessly positive, as you're going to hear. That has been incredibly invaluable to him to overcome his personal challenges and setbacks. He is certainly relentless and positive, and he believes that we can all be the author of our own story. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show. Welcome for the first time to A New Direction, Rand Selig. Rand, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Coach Jay. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you today.
So this book that it's excellent. By the way, you talk about in I guess I'm gonna call it introduction. I'm gonna call it's entitled "Good Cards, Bad Cards." Oh, actually, no. Let me rephrase that. It's good cards, bad cards, playing them well. Question marks. You said this book is expressly designed to be a workbook. And it is true. You ask us questions literally throughout the book and of writing things down. And you also come very out front and say, hey, listen, there are at least 2, but these 2 are the big ones for you, is that you have have the challenge of a chronic autoimmune eye condition, and that you had some challenges in relationship with your own father, and yet you thrived through that. So maybe talk to us about those 2 things and how those things, like a chronic autoimmune eye condition and the challenges with your dad, because listen, I think many people have challenges with their parents, how that turns from, okay, a challenge into thriving.
Well, they're different and similar in certain ways. The autoimmune disease kicked in. It's one of the gifts from my mother. It's the only gift I can think of from my mother that's not a really positive, great gift. I have a fabulous mother. She's 98. I see her every week. Unconditional love is what is written under the picture of her. But she gave me this, it's a blood condition, BLA 27 positive, and I have that inherited from her. And so this is the autoimmune disease. It affects people differently. It's a rheumatoid arthritis issue. And in my case, it affects my eyes and creates called iritis, and it is an inflammation of the iris. And I started developing this in my late 20s. I was, on Wall Street and doing a lot of traveling, a lot of transactions, a lot of stress, and it kicked in. Now, the doctors, Western doctors want to have data to support the connection between A and B. Well, there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that stress is what prompts my flare-ups. Well, they deny that, but it's my body. And I know that when I'm going into a stressful time, I need to take more rest. I need to get more exercise. I need to drink more water, all those things. So I start taking care of myself. But this has been going on. Fortunately, as my immune system has sort of gotten back into more normal way, then these flare-ups have been very frequent. I think the last one was 10 years ago now. So I've had great doctors. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate modern pharmacy with eye drops that I can put in. When there's a flare-up, then I had to take more drops, and now I just take them prophylactically. But it's under control.
Good.
And I realized through this whole experience how appreciative I am. So we can reframe things in our lives to make the best out of it. So that's what I've done. I've made a choice. What's going on? This has been a bit of a problem. It's been issues and surgeries and this, that, and something else. Well, what's the reframing? Well, one, I'm very appreciative of the support I've gotten from the medical community and from my wife. Unbelievable. I kept going. I have a lot of grit, a lot of determination, so it wasn't going to get me off my game. And so that's a huge element to this autoimmune issue. My father's a whole nother set of things. My dad's still alive. He's turning 102 in 3 weeks. He is a absolutely remarkable person. He's gone through 3 wars, very highly decorated. His first career, 25 years in the U.S. Army, fought in World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam. And recently, about 4 years ago, was decorated, honored by the President of France, made a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor, which is rarely given to non-French. I mean, there are some, but they're doled out. You have to be alive to get one. So dad got his, and of all his many 30 medals, including Bronze Star twice and Purple Heart and so on, this is the one that is the big one for him. So he's a tough, strong, very principled person. So many of the qualities that I really appreciate about who I am, I got from him. So I picked my parents well. But dad went on. His education was interrupted. I helped him get his bachelor's degree when he was 43 years old. And then he went on, didn't help him much with that, didn't need my help anymore, to get his master's in guidance and counseling. So he stayed with having education be the heart of being able to, contribute well, to perform well. And so he's a powerful person. He's a very generous, very principled in how he thinks about the world. But being his son is not an easy thing. It's kind of maybe like old bull, young bull. And we went round and round. He's, partly it's generational, but he's not very emotional with the immediate family. He, took a long time for him to learn how to give a hug. But he can do that now. So I got into a situation with him that really kept getting worse and worse. Till about 15 years ago, I said to myself, I don't think he's going to change. So if there's going to be a change in the dynamic here, it's going to be me making the change. And rather than sort of fighting him and arguing and saying, I'm right and you're not right, I have to just give up on that And I have to just honor him, respect him, listen to his stories. If he doesn't ask me how I'm doing, he doesn't ask how my family's doing, okay, I have other people I can have those conversations with. Just let him be him and give him the respect he is really rightfully due. So I made that change about 15 years ago. It was really helped Coach Jay by having a friend. I went to a friend who's a counselor, a psychologist, and I said, I'd like to talk to you." He says, "Oh, do you want to talk about your dad?" And I said, "Yeah, that's the topic." And he says, "Okay, well, give me the latest." And he said, "Write a letter. Write a letter to the dad you wish you had. Now, you don't have to send this letter to your real dad, but write a letter after a weekend that you've spent together. What a great weekend it was. Dad, wow, we had so much fun. We talked about so many important things." And you can have that as your other dad.
Mm.
So now I have two dads. I have this dad who I respect so much, who's given me so much, and I have this other dad who sees me, who respects me, who loves me. And so I have both. I invented the second one with the help of my friend.
Very cool. So that leads us to thriving, and that leads us to making decisions, seeing things in a different light, reframing them in a way that we can thrive. And so there's a couple tools that you've already given us, but it starts in chapter 1, which I think is critical to this entire book, which is called building character, which you did as a result of both of those two things, right? It's character building. And I think it's also important to note that it doesn't necessarily happen in your 20s, although it would be nice if it did. It can happen much later in life. It's never too late
Yeah.
to make these changes and thrive in life, correct?
Completely right. It's never too late. In fact, I'm going to be giving a talk coming up very soon at a retirement home. And one of the messages I want to give these lovely people is to continue to have purpose, even all the way to the end, all the way to the end. Even if your purpose is only to be kind and pleasant to the people around you, that's mighty purpose, and that's valid. So this idea of it doesn't really matter when it starts. This starting off can be because you had great modeling and a great world you grew up in, but sometimes it's your own making. A lot of who I am is my own making, and that came in stages over time.
So let's talk about building character here. Let's talk about the first part is becoming more self-aware,
Mm.
because this is critical to our character. Explain why self-awareness is so important to building our character.
This is a foundational, absolutely foundational element to the whole issue of thriving. If we don't know ourselves, we don't know what we stand for. We don't. It's easy to know our chronological history. Some people get forgetful about that, but that can be compiled uh, by looking at it. But the inner look of who we are as a person, well, what values we have, what matters to us, what is our identity. These are building blocks that we can change. You can say, I want to have more emphasis on being this kind of person rather than others. And our society, the world around us, and often even our own families have other messages, and we have to make our own decisions about which messages are important. For example, there's a great quote. My book has lots and lots of quotes. This is a quote about treasure your relationships, not your possessions. Well, our society is filled with messages saying we're all economic animals, and the first and most important decision we can ever make is about the economics. And we all know that economics play a role, but for very few people I've met, it's the one and only thing that really matters to them. There are many other things, relationships with other people, the relationship with themselves, on and on. What they're doing in the world, how they're contributing. These things matter. And so money is just one of those things. You can treasure relationships, and that's a choice. These are all choices.
His name is Rand Selig. The book is titled Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy, whether you're recovering from injury, surgery, suffering everyday aches and pains, maybe you're having difficulty performing activities of daily living, maybe you're a professional athlete or athlete who just wants to move, feel better. Listen, the elite team at Epic Physical Therapy will make a program for you specifically. So when you're ready for epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft Team Realtors. For more than 39 years, they've been helping people transition in life. You say, wait, how do they do that? I thought they were real estate. They are. But think about it. Every place you've ever lived has been a life transition. They know how to take the stress out of that selling and buying process. So listen, when you're ready to sell your home, buy your next home, don't look any further. Take the stress out of either one. Take the stress out of transition. Check out Linda Craft Team Realtors. It's lindacraft.com. LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Rand Selig, just getting started here on his book, Thriving is the name of the book, How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. Rand, in your book, you said there's 7 character strengths that are believed most likely to predict life satisfaction achievement. And it's zest, grit, optimism, gratitude, curiosity, social intelligence, self-control, and then you throw in an 8th called humor. And so I find these intriguing about our character, especially zest, because you can almost put these into segments. Zest, grit, and optimism sound like they kind of go together. So let's talk about zest, grit, and optimism in terms of why and how that affects our character and what we can do to develop those.
Well, I love that part of the book. I think that study is a great contributor to how we can hold life itself. And in a recent talk, I asked everybody to rate themselves, much like you did, Jay, on the 4 tires of the car. Where are you with these dimensions? And if you're scoring an 8 or a 9, which is great, what else is in the way? What stops you from being a 10 in terms of zest? What stops you from being optimistic, being positive? I talk about being relentlessly positive. Well, so I have it easy because I start off the day that way. Other people are cynical and so on. These are choices, and it's a choice not only to take these on and to say, I want to be better at that. I want to be, more positive, more optimistic, have more grit, more resilience. In the world we're living in, changes are coming at us all the time. Well, how are you going to adapt and be resilient? You got to have some grit. And so these 7 dimensions are hugely important. And I just being the author, I can add what I want. And I added humor not only because it makes life fun, but also because we can laugh at ourselves. We catch ourselves. You kind of say, oh my gosh, did I do that again? That's hilarious. Am I going to grow up? Am I going to figure this out? But relax about it a little bit. See some humor in it. I've yet to meet a person. I've met some amazing people in my life, in some ways hugely successful. Nobody's perfect, and you may have had a record of great accomplishment, and then tomorrow something bad happens, you blow it. So these things happen to us, and having humor, both about the world we live in and enjoying that, it's good for us physically, but also being able to laugh at ourselves.
You'd say that of all these 7, we'll call it 8 because you added humor, which I agree with you. Humor is incredibly important to becoming successful. Grit is the most critical character trait that we need to hone in on. And you bring up something from John Gordon, motivational speaker, and he talks about in developing mental toughness. And I love these 5 things. Adversity, negative people, focus, being positive, and then do your best to finish strong.
Yeah.
I think this is hard for people to wrap their minds around how adversity and negative people help us develop
Mm,
uh,
mm,
develop this
mm.
grit and mental toughness. Help them understand and embrace adversity and negative people as part of your character development.
Well, again, as life comes at us and something bad happens, it's a negative person, it's a negative event, we make a choice. We may not realize we're making a choice. We are making a choice. What are we going to do about that? And a negative experience, a negative person can be a tremendous gift. It can be a big wake up call. I don't want to be that person. And I'm going to take every step I can to be unlike that and instead be positive or be kind or listen better. These are invitations. It's kind of like, I think of it sometimes like a choreography, a rehearsal before the real show. And we see it and we have a chance to bite into that apple, a delicious apple, and say, great, thank you so much for showing me how not to be. By the way, my book, I have a little thing in that first section where I talk about Shakespeare and Hamlet. And I say, Hamlet says the question is to be or not to be. And I say, good old Bill Shakespeare, yeah, good on you. But the better question, the bigger question is how to be and how not to be.
Mm.
And so these questions about negative stuff and the great work that John Gordon, that I refer to in my book, and I refer to him in several different places,
Mhm.
because he's so important, so valuable. I have great appreciation for John. uh, it wakes us up. It's an invitation to wake up and say, who do I want to be? There's another quote, Zig Ziglar, another motivational speaker. And Zig Ziglar, I call it, it's a Ziggy. Are you going to do a Ziggy? Be the kind of person where if someone said something bad about you, no one, no one would believe it. Could you imagine being that person? Well, I can. I can't say that's always been the case. I can't say that of all the whatever thousands of people I met, everybody would say that. But I would like to think that they are saying it more now because I'm becoming a better person. And I'm really trying to be a better person. I'm very conscious. I've done that homework to see where my shortcomings are. And I'm willing to be humble enough to admit it, honest enough with myself to say, I didn't do that right. And now I need to fix that. And I need to make sure I don't do that again.
Um, those are just they're amazing. Those 5 things, John. What he did put together there, those are great. But then you come back right after that and you say another aspect of personality and character development is something called presence.
Mm,
And you say generally, if we are thriving, we will have more presence. And you say it's presence is a combination of several things: confidence, passion, enthusiasm, authenticity, being captivating, and being comfortable.
mm, mm,
Help us understand that a little bit more. Why those 6 things? I think we can kind of get confidence, maybe passion, mm, enthusiasm sounds right, authenticity, absolutely, captivating and comfortable.
mm. So I think it goes back to this question of, are we comfortable in our own skin?
Mm,
So again, this is confidence in ourselves. So much, I tell I think one of my greatest of those 7 or 8 things is grit, followed or maybe neck and neck with being optimistic, being relentlessly positive. These 2 things are so important. And I just think that being comfortable in our own skin is a self-defined thing.
mm,
Yes, it's nice to get compliments. Of course, we love
sure.
compliments. But at the heart of it, you have to say, do I earn that compliment? You know, if I do something, if I'm standing there in front of people naked, am I going to be okay with that? And I don't mean naked without your clothes. I mean, they see you, they look inside you,
Right.
and they say, wow, I see this person. This is a person with the heart of gold, the mind that is engaged with me, who cares about me, who's respectful, who's listening, who's asking great questions. They can see inside and know that about you. They see you in operations. They're not listening necessarily to your words. They're watching what you do. It's
Mm.
all about your actions.
Yeah, I'm reminded, you talk about, you're really using a word intimacy, right?
Mm,
Right.
mm,
And that word really, I learned this many years ago, is when we say the word intimacy, it's not about sex or um, the physical intimacy. It's about, and I learned to say it this way: into me see.
mm. Oh, that's good. That's very nice. That's very nice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's intimacy, right?
Yeah.
That I am allowing myself to be completely open, where you can see into me, and then I can see into you.
Yeah. Lovely. Lovely. I have, a fondness for Star Trek. And of course,
Mhm,
my favorite guy is Spock. And this idea of having the mind meld where he puts his
mhm,
fingers up and then he can do this. And
mhm,
it's a mind meld, but it's also a heart meld in my view, where you're reading a person. When you meet a person for the first time, there's this, it's a fraction of a second. I don't know whether it's olfactory or smelling or something about the way they're holding their body, their smile on their face, if they hopefully they have one. You're drawn to them. And this idea of being able to feel a kinship right away, and
yeah,
you kind of want to listen, and you kind of want to, smile some more. You know.
yeah, no, I totally get it, and that leads us to virtues, values, and principles.
Mhm.
And you say that virtues are qualities that are universally considered to be good and desirable. Values or principles or standards of behavior that can help us decide what's important in life, and they reflect what we stand for and what we won't stand for. So you say there's 7 venerable virtues:
Mm,
humility, generosity, restraint, kindness, moderation, charity, and diligence.
mm,
I I
mm,
think we think humility is a virtue, but I don't think we understand humility very well,
mm, mm, mm.
and why that's so important to our character.
Yeah.
I think we get generosity. I think we get charity. I don't know that we get humility. I don't think we get restraint. I don't know that we I don't think we think about I think we're fine. Yeah, kindness is a good idea. I think diligence we think is good, but humility, restraint, and moderation, those 3 seems like they may be a little tougher for us. Help us understand that in terms of why those are such great virtues.
Well, I could talk about each one rather than a group, because I think they're very related, and they're all
Okay,
somewhat different too.
sure.
So, there's I think in our society, there's a sense of a ladder that if you're going up the ladder and things are going well, uh, maybe you got some good cards, but maybe you actually played them well, and maybe you actually were in the game in such a way that you made sure you got the good cards, you stayed in the game, you were focused. But at times, there's stuff out of our control. And I'm realizing over the last decade or so, I mean, I'm kind of amazed that I could even say it's been that recent, that there are a lot of things I don't control. I mean, I think along with grit, this idea of controlling my life has been a huge, huge uh, headline for me in designing my life. But along the way, I discovered that there's a lot of stuff I don't control, and I have made mistakes. And what that to me is recognizing that and being honest about that leads me to humility
Mm,
and putting aside the ego. I mean, if I if I think about it, I'm sort of thinking on one hand, you've got ego, and ego is much more than just good self-esteem. I have very high self-esteem, but hopefully my ego is not way out of whack. I am willing to ask questions. I am willing to listen. Uh, Humility is to say, I'm a little dude. I'm a very little dude. If you look at the eclipse we just had, or planet Earth, or the galaxy, or the universe, I mean, we're just insignificant, completely insignificant. And in 2 or 3 generations, people won't even know who we were. Certainly not firsthand, and maybe if they come across something we've created, a piece of art or music or a book or something, maybe, but we're little, and having that sense of insignificance helps that we don't get ahead of ourselves and start thinking we control more than we do, or behaving in ways that are really too self-centered and not serving. So that's a humility bit. It ties to restraint, of course, because one of the 7 big virtues that lead to life satisfaction and achievement is self-control. And that means we are restraining ourselves. We're controlling our impulses and our emotions, especially at very difficult times. When stuff is, and the chips are down, when the thumbs down, what are we doing about that? Are we acting out? Are we just being triggered automatically and say, well, that's just me. That's just me. I got triggered again. No, these again are things you can look at and say, I didn't like that. That's not the best person I can be. And I would like to take a deep breath, take a walk around the block before I reply to that, before I respond to that, before I get triggered again. Or if I get triggered, just not completely pull the trigger. So that's a restraint thing, and moderation is again tied to this. I talk about, there's a whole chapter in my book on money, and we're stuck. A lot of people are horribly stuck with this idea of what is success. And if success is to you is about money, you're missing so many hugely important ingredients. These relationships we've been talking about, relationships with ourselves and others, the being of service, being charitable or philanthropic, or being on a board, or just volunteering locally wherever you live. So moderation plays into this in a huge way, that we need to control our impulses, and control that we should be buying things, using our money and our time in ways that really fit who we are and how we want the world around us to be.
You follow this up with a list of values, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but one of them that you attached a special note to was responsibility, and you say that the one that responsibility, the one quality that all successful people have, is the ability to take on responsibility. Address that.
So in that way, there's sort of 2 elements, maybe almost 2 sides of the coin about responsibility. One is having broad shoulders and saying, okay, this work needs to be done, and I will raise my hand and to offer to do that work. That's taking on responsibility. And that's important. I mean, what would happen in the world if people didn't step up and step forward? But the other side of the coin is taking responsibility means, look, I did this. I am taking responsibility for my actions. I'm not going to be a victim here. I'm not going to point the finger at somebody else and say, woe is me, and life is crappy because something else. No, I'm going to say, I'm going to take responsibility for the life I'm living, how I behave, what I'm doing. And it's a different kind of responsibility. That's why it's the same coin, but at the other side of the coin. Being responsible for who you are as a person, as well as filling the vessel with as much, life is life is not about longevity, it's about vitality.
Hmm.
So, are we going to get on with that? Do we want to?
And that requires responsibility. I have to make that responsibility. His name is Rand Selig. The book is entitled Thriving, How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. It's fantastic. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy Facility. They offer the most advanced top-of-the-line equipment, including the Alter G anti-gravity treadmill, the Normatec compression sleeves, my favorite, Game Ready, ice and compression all at the same time. It's pretty awesome. That's just a few. Listen, they're trained and certified in the most comprehensive cutting-edge treatments available, like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping, and that's just a few. Listen, when you're ready for your epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. Linda Craft Team Realtors for more than 39 years. They have been serving the world, and they are looking to hire people like you who have a North Carolina real estate license and live in the greater Research Triangle Park area. So listen, when you're ready to join a team that's at the top of the game and has been for 39 years, and you want a family of people who are going to train you the way you really need to be trained, then you know what? Take a look at hanging your license with Linda Craft Team Realtors. Just go to lindacraft.com and look at, the team. That's it. It's lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Rand Selig, Thriving, How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. Hopefully, Rand, you're enjoying the show and having a good time as we kind of discuss through some of these things. I hope you are anyway.
I know. Yeah.
Good, because I am. I'm having a blast with it. So I'm glad that you are as well. One of the things you talk about in character and in building character to thrive is being a lifelong learner. And I cannot agree with you more that I've done the Strength Finders, the Gallup Strength Finders, Clifton Strength Finders by Gallup, and my number one strength is learner. Which is kind of how the show kind of developed, because I get to read a book a week, for my show, because I'm always trying to learn something new. But it's something, it may be my number one strength, but it's something that we all have at our disposal. Talk about being a lifelong learner and its importance to developing character and thriving.
It's a very rich, key topic. I love talking about being a lifelong learner. There are, again, several aspects to this that are worth embracing. One is lifelong learner being curious. It makes life fun. You can look around and say, well, why is that happening? How did it get to be the way it is now? How does it work? What's kind of under the hood? Just makes it so interesting. And the travel doesn't have to be on a plane to some other foreign place. It could be just right here, just out your front door. So that kind of curiosity, making things really, really fun. There's a side benefit here, which is it helps you to suspend judgment. When you're curious, when you're a lifelong learner, you say to yourself, I don't think that way, or that's not my opinion, but why are they thinking that? And that is inordinately valuable in avoiding conflicts. Conflict, it's a great conflict resolution technique to just sort of remove yourself from the middle of that conversation, put yourself as a little fly on the wall and observe. Start asking questions out of curiosity. Not like, oh, I already know the answer, or I already think this person's completely wrong, I'm not going to listen to them. But rather, wow, that's interesting. It's not actually the way I have experienced, or it's not the way I'm thinking. Please share more with me. It's kind of part of an active listening and repeating back. So if I understand what you're saying is this, and this, did I get it all? Is that right? What did I miss about that? And there's one more key part of this lifelong learner, and that's learning about ourselves. We've been talking about that so far, Coach Jay, but it's learning from our mistakes and turning them to valuable lessons. So again, this takes humility, takes honesty. I did that. I'm taking responsibility for that. I'm now going to do something about that. So this happened. Why did it happen? What role did I play in this? Was I 100% responsible? Was I a small bit actor in the play? What part did I play? And since it was a mistake, I call it now a mistake. What am I going to do about that? Am I going to repair the damage? Am I going to apologize? Am I going to create some restitution of whatever kind is appropriate? And what am I going to learn so I don't do this again? What is the valuable lesson here? That's all in this bundle of being a lifelong learner.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you use the acronym LOSS in here, which I just love this acronym. So, and you say when you're facing up to a mistake or suffering a setback, it might be value to remember the acronym LOSS.
Yeah.
LOSS. Learning opportunities stay strong.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, earlier in that chapter, by the way, we're just still on chapter 1.
I know.
Yeah. So there's this section I talk about. It's an easy test. It's called the Adverse Childhood Experience Test. It's just 10 questions, and you answer yes or no. And it's an eye opener. I took the test. I scored a 3 because I've had the adversities. We talked about 2 of them, and I scored a 3. If you have a 4 or more, the chance of you having lifelong mental or physical problems is like 80%.
Yeah.
So, we're doing something about that in our society now. We're understanding it more. We're learning when to see it and how to intervene earlier. But this is all part of this knowing who we are and then doing something about it.
Yeah, the ACE test is what he's referring to here. That you'll see oftentimes you can look it up. I think Truity.
Mhm.
I think Truity has a free test of it online. Again, it's 10 questions. It's a good one. My wife introduced me. I'd heard of it, and prior to this book, and then you mentioned it, and we were driving down the road, and she gave me the test, and I think I had a 1. Is what I had. Hers was higher, and so that was kind of really interesting to me because it's an interesting little test, and the questions will make you think, for sure. Absolutely. I want to say this about lifelong learners, being one, and I want to give some people maybe some hope here. Let me say something about a lifelong learner and being curious. You may disagree with someone if you're a lifelong learner, but here's the thing that lifelong learners will do. They may initially disagree, but they come back around going, they just need to think about it because they're always learning from the conversation. Even if they disagree with the conversation, even if they get a little defensive, if they're a learner, they will come back around because they'll go, upon further review. That's what I know about me being a lifelong learner. My thing is when somebody says something, I will go upon further review because I'll go, yeah, you know what? There is something to that.
Nice.
You're right.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something that we do naturally as lifelong learners is, all right, upon further review, I got to give you credit on this one. Let's dig in really well. You know what? Let's jump ahead because we're going to bring you back anyway, and we'll be covering this. I want to jump into gratitude because I think this is a great way to end the show. Is to talk about gratitude, and which is chapter 7, and you talk about in Thriving that gratitude is an essential. It's the words you used. You said having gratitude is an essential aspect of thriving. Why do you say that?
There are so many ways to hold life. I mean, again, if we're holding it, we're have our hands on the steering wheel and we got our foot on the pedal. We're driving our own car, and we have a choice at any time to take a look and see what's going on. And at that moment, we can say, wow, I am really delighted with this. I am so appreciative of this situation happening. Now, that does not mean everything's going hunky dory. That does not mean that yesterday was a great day. And by the way, thriving is the climate, not the weather. It's the average over time, not just today's rainstorm. So gratitude is this place of really coming to terms with what's going on for us, and actually looking, opening ourselves up to the good things that are going on. And there may be 5 bad things, but if there's one good thing, then that's the thing you can focus on. If you focus on the good thing, then that's...
I lost you there, Rand.
And then gratitude is just a way to take a look at all that's going on, and it's a kind of mindfulness. It's a kind of opening ourselves up in our eyes and our listening to the things that are going on. What we focus on, we become. So if you want to focus on the bad stuff, then that's going to turn us in that direction. If you're going to focus on the good stuff and what you're grateful for, the positive things, whether it's just the amazing nature. You find a flower. Here is springtime here in North America, buds, and here it again, life eternal coming back. You can look and see the bug crossing from one place, little tiny creature doing its thing. You see the dog wagging its tail. There's just so many ways to appreciate, to have gratitude. And the one of the importances of gratitude is, I love this quote: "The struggle ends when gratitude begins." To me, that holds so much. We all have struggles. I mean, I've yet to meet a person who doesn't have a struggle, either in the past or currently kind of just faced with it. And so when you have gratitude, the struggle takes on a whole different, you have a different perspective about it. You have a different, like I was talking about reframing, with my, my problems with my arthritis and eye conditions. I could reframe that to being grateful for Western doctors and Eastern doctors, and the combination is available to me. That I'm grateful for the fact that I can afford the out-of-pocket costs associated with these things. Not a lot, but I didn't have to think about it twice. So I'm grateful. I reframed and I became grateful about that. The struggle ended when that gratitude came in, and I got a smile on my face. I felt it. I just felt it.
That's beautiful. Rand, we've done an hour, and it's gone by really, really fast. I've totally enjoyed having you on the show, and we're going to be bringing back. You and I talked that because we knew we weren't going to get through very much, and so we're going to be doing a part 2 of Thriving down the road. So people stay tuned, because there's going to be part 2, because there's a lot more to this than just chapter 1 and a little bit of gratitude. So Rand, tell folks how they can get a hold of you.
So the best way is to go to my book website, randselig.com, randselig.com. I can be reached on LinkedIn. I'm posting a couple of times a month with things that are very related to the theme of thriving, so listeners might be interested in that. On my book website, you can connect with me. And if you have a question, or you want me to come speak, or some reaction to my book, I'd love to hear from you.
That'd be awesome. Rand, stay with me. Hey, folks, it's the show. You know what I say to you every week, right? You are in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, and your resiliency. I know that life can throw you a lot of circumstances. Things can be really, really tough, but you are in control of your positive effort. It's your choice of what your attitude is going to be. And it's also your effort. Every day is different. What your effort may be today will be different than tomorrow or the day yesterday, but your effort is tied to your excellence. How excellent will you choose to be today? And then finally, resiliency. We all get punched in the mouth or in the gut, but it's up to us to get back up again. Get back up. Choose your attitude. Choose your effort. It's going to be worth it, I promise. I'm going to be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great book. It automatically is another great show. As I say to you, it's this. You had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube and a positive review wherever you listen to us and watch us. As I say to you all over the world, ciao, everybody.